Sunday, and I am a little slow going this morning. I am definitely late on my routine, my daily routine. But I have wanted to talk about some stuff. Seems to be what I'm called to do lately, not so much card readings, but talk about my healing process more openly. And it's been coming up for me to address being triggered. It's a pretty normal process or function in the healing process, what you resist persists, what you don't address, will come up in more unsightly ways, I've found. But even more than that, because we're all, in a healing phase, or else we wouldn't be here. Part of being on earth, and at least from my perspective, is purification of the soul. Healing things that are not perfect, because earth is a super not perfect place. I had been talking to someone about healed people, healing people, and people who purposely try to trigger other people. And one of the things that I noticed was someone who's in their Tao, as far as their career goes, or their relationship, you can kind of look at one area or the other. They won't try to trigger other people. I know we've all experienced when someone is in an insecure relationship and they need to make you feel bad or other people feel bad, or, they do just weird stuff inside the relationship to try to make you feel some type of way. Or if the relationship ends really traumatically, they try to, smear the other person or have a lot of gossip or drama involved. Or if someone in their professional life needs to cause conflict with another person in order to feel like their contribution is valid. You've been at work and there's somebody who can't just do a good job and receive praise for their work. They've got to tear down their coworker. They've got to find somebody at work they have conflict with and draw everybody else into it. And that's not to say that those people are bad people. It's you're in a place where you're not drawing what's aligned to you. You see people who are really well fit for their job, and doing a good job fulfills them. And then being employee of the month or receiving some kind of award, their 5-year whatever, I don't even know if employers do that anymore, but that bonus isn't what they're going for. The bonus is the icing on the cake. And being promoted is then sprinkles on top of the icing. But it's interesting to me when you find people who profess just because they've done something for a really long time, or they've gotten other people to give them praise for what they do, how often they need to find themselves in competition with another person or tearing someone else down. Even in athletes who are professional, the ones who are meant to be doing that sport aren't ever trying to beat someone else. They're just trying to play their best. And they know that, I forget who it was, but I was watching an interview with a professional basketball player, and one of the reporters asked him if, something along the lines of if they felt, bad about how they played, or if they were having a poor performance, and, if they feel like they let themselves down by not winning the championship. And I thought that the response was it was such a good response. It was that there's going to be another year to play, that this year they played their best and their best wasn't better than somebody else, and that now they know what they need to work on to improve their best to hopefully be better next year, but that there is more times to play, that they're really only trying to be the best that they can be and have cohesiveness amongst their players. And it's not about beating someone else, but about playing well. And that if you played if you played well and you played your best, you couldn't have possibly let someone down. It's just, it wasn't your day to win. And that there are more games to win. And I know for myself, I had been on sports teams where we won first place. And I have been on sports teams where we came in dead last. And what was funny was, when we came in first place, our coach did not tell us our standing the whole season. We just knew that each game we needed to go out and, I was the starting pitcher and I needed to strike girls out. That was it. I needed to get up there and I needed to throw strikes. And I needed to throw strikes against people who could hit, And I needed to make sure that I could throw my best pitches every single pitch against those batters. And my only goal was to become a better pitcher each game, was to have less hits, was to, reduce the amount of pitches because you get tired. You don't want to be standing out there all day. And you certainly don't want to be taken out, as a pitcher, you don't want to be taken out of the game. You never want to be taken out of the game because you are not doing well, And that was the only thing I focused on. And, I wasn't the only person who was good on that team, obviously. We were focused on, it's your turn to bat. Okay, hit the ball. Advance the players around the bases. And each thing we put together was, did you do your best against this pitcher? Did you do your best, when it was your turn to slide or to steal or to hold up? Did you listen to your coaches? Do you know what I'm saying? Were you reading the ball? Were you making the plays in the outfield? Were you throwing accurately? Was each play that you were part of, accurate and well-timed and the best that you could play? Was your performance good. And when we won first place, we were confused. We were handed these trophies and we had no idea, because we were not, there was no, in that league, we didn't have a championship, playoff type of thing. We just, at the end of the season, the best teams are playing against each other and we didn't really know where we stood. And then, we won, and then here's our, party at the end of the year, and here are our first place trophies. And we were like, oh, we came in first place. Okay. But the teams where I was we didn't do well, our coach made us know what our standing was. And each game we were there to try to beat the other team. Of course you want to win, right? But winning isn't, in people who are doing what they're supposed to do, winning isn't the focus. Beating the other team isn't the focus. You win because you did your best, and your best was that day better than somebody else. And getting an award, getting first place, getting, winning, whatever that means and whatever you're doing, is only something that enhances the feeling of completion you already have. I do a lot of different things. I'm very artistic. I do a lot of different stuff to try to express myself. And as I've taken the journey of, an artist, I used to care a lot whether or not other people thought what I did was good. Because, I was an insecure artist. I was not confident in my work. I was not confident that I was doing what I should be doing. And I've looked at my own journey, and before I realized the things that I was truly passionate about, the things that were actually fulfilling me, the things that were bringing me joy, I needed that reassurance from other people. I needed, if it was photography, I needed likes on Instagram. If it was a song that I had made, I needed someone to tell me that they liked it. When I was singing, I needed someone to tell me that they liked what they heard. But those things are not, if you are genuinely completing something that is meant for you, those things are just icing on the cake. And you don't need to be better than anybody else because you've already completed what your soul and your spirit needed to complete. Like, you don't write poetry because you need everyone to give you some sort of award for being the best poet. You wrote it because you felt something and you needed to express it. You didn't take that picture because you wanted 1 million Instagram likes. Like, I remember the first time I took a photo that got like hundreds of likes on Instagram, and this is like, gosh, probably a decade ago. And the funny thing was I gave myself a photo challenge that day, that I was going to literally just kind of put some settings on my camera, point and shoot while my friend was driving down the coast. And it's not hard to take a good photo of the coast in California. It's not, like, you could point your camera anywhere and it's scenic. But I was challenging myself to capture something that was interesting while we were moving. Like, you're not going to have the time to set up. You're just going to point and be like, oh, that's cool, shoot. Did it come out? Did you have your, aperture and shutter speed correctly so that the things weren't blurry, or if they were blurry, that it's artistic? And I posted a couple of them. And one of them, people really liked. And I woke up the next morning, and I was like, this has to be a joke. Like, I'm looking and there's like all these likes, and I was like, there's more likes than I had ever had on any photo. And I was like, what is this? Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, there has to be some sort of malfunction. And they were all for one photo, even though I had posted several. The one that spoke the most to me had like 12 likes. And it was interesting to me to see how what spoke to other people wasn't the photo that spoke to me. I thought it was a good photo. Obviously, I posted it out of like the 40 photos I took that day. But for me, there were other photos that really captured how I was feeling that day, or what I really thought was artistic. And it was just an interesting experiment for myself. And, looking back on all of the things that I have learned about self and self-expression and what it looks like to be, in your Tao and healed or healing, and to be carrying out what you're meant to carry out. I didn't, I used to really need likes, and that at that time really like shocked me and it made me excited because I needed likes at that time, And now I don't expect anybody to like anything because I don't need them to. I didn't post it for somebody to like it. I didn't take that photo for somebody to like it. And even that day, I didn't really post it for people to like. It was like, these are my skills as a photographer. This was the challenge that I gave myself. And to just, show people what my perspective looked like. And I think that is a lot of what is missing in a lot of people's professional careers. Like, everybody kind of specializes in something in their perspective, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a therapist or you're an artist or you're a musician or you are, a clerk somewhere, or you have a menial labor job, construction, delivery, whether you're a home goods maker, no matter what you're doing, you specialize in something. But when you're really doing what you are meant to do, you don't need to be the number one. If you are, that's great. But what you need to do is know that, like, let's say you're a furniture maker, you need to feel like the furniture that you're making is for the people who are buying it. And then you have a sense of completion. I made this table, and the person who's using this table loves this table. It's in the right house. It's being taken care of. My work isn't being squandered by somebody who just lets it rot or doesn't take care of it. And it just so happens that a lot of people like my aesthetic, and my production level is extremely high, so I've had to hire other people. You can have the same value of saying, I literally make tables all day, every day. I support myself, I support my family, and it's just me because my business hasn't scaled to the size of needing other people to help me build my tables for other people. But I am sufficiently happy. I do what I love every day. It sells to people who will take care of it. I support my family. I support my life. And I'm doing something that brings my body joy, that brings my spirit joy. And I like the end product that I make. It is icing on the cake that the thing that I make makes me money. It is icing on the cake that the people who buy it take care of it and it becomes a family heirloom. It is icing on the cake that now my business is expanding to the point where I can employ other people. And you find in a lot of places and in a lot of industries and with a lot of people, they will try to tell you the opposite, but they're not happy. That they're trying to cause conflict with other people or weird competition. Obviously there are things that are competitive, like competitive sports. Obviously boxing is somebody's going to win. You go to a football game and a team is going to win and a team is going to lose. But the people who are really meant to be playing aren't there to win at all costs. They're not trying to tear someone else down because the other person didn't win. They're satisfied with playing and playing well, and having playing well mean they won. Like a sense of, not... It's like being humble about knowing that you are good. You don't have to say anything because your actions speak for themselves. And that's gone away in a lot of places. And I feel like in how I've witnessed myself grow and how I've seen other people grow as well, that's a lot of what's robbing people of happiness, is the need for it to put you on top of someone else, like a strange form of oppression. Because I am good at this, you can't be good at this. Not that everybody's going to be good at what they're good at. And in this season, this year, what I'm doing is speaking to people, and, next year it's probably going to be somebody else's turn. You don't see as much anymore in sports the dynasties where somebody's winning year after year after year, because it's not that same team's turn to win all the time. And I'm only using this because it's like as an example, because it's just a really common example that most people have played sports in their lives. Most people have gone to a sporting event. Most people actually have a favorite team of some sort that they follow, And if you come from a town with a winning team, that's not hard. If you come from a town with a losing team, it can be a little more difficult to want to support your team. I am originally from Michigan, and, there are good teams there and there are not good teams there. There's a long time where the Tigers just didn't win, and then they started winning, and that was good. And if you're there for the win and the loss, then you're going to miss out on the joy. If you are doing art so that you can become the next famous artist, you're missing out on the purpose of expressing yourself. If you are trying to open a store because you want to be the next multi-million-dollar seller of anything, you're missing out on the point. If you're trying to tear somebody else down to try to feel good about yourself, trying to trigger other people so that they either tear themselves down, I mean, that's really the point of triggering another person, is so that they stop doing it, so that they feel unworthy of doing their best, so that it takes them out of the vibration of just focusing on completing what's going to give their internal self completion. You know, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing if that's a part of your equation. You'll never see a healed person try to tear another person down. You'll never see a person who's doing what they're supposed to be doing the way that they're supposed to be doing it need to trigger someone else. You won't, it's not needed. And I think that, like, with the way the world has become, so much of people believing that they're good is because a group of people have told them that they are good at what they're doing. But if they were really good at what they were doing, they would already know. They would just feel whole about that activity. For example, I've been a musician at points in my life. I don't know if at points is accurate. I've been a musician in my life. I am a musician. And there have been things that I have done musically where I've received a lot of praise, and things that I have done where, you know, only a small group of people praised me. And there have been things that I have done that I knew were awesome, but that kind of shocked other people. Like in high school, I had this performance that, you know, was a little more ruckus, I guess is the great word, than was expected of me by the person who asked me to play. And I knew that I did a good job on the song, that the band that I was playing with, like, we practiced and we nailed it. And it was fun, and people were a little shocked because they were expecting something a little more kumbaya, and we came with something a bit more enthusiastic than that. And I remember being pulled aside and being, you know, hey, you can play these kinds of songs, and we were expecting a little more of this. And there was only one song that was like that, but it was a song that everybody knew. They just didn't expect us to cover it. And it was not out of the wheelhouse, like, it wasn't inappropriate in any way, but I was asked to not be that ruckus anymore. And that actually let me know that we did that song well, because that song was meant to be ruckus. It was just not expected. Now, if we had flubbed the song, or I had forgotten the lyrics, or my drummer was off, or the guitar wasn't there, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, when the guitarist is just off, and somebody said, don't play it again, I would have had a sense of like, oh man, we shouldn't do that kind of stuff anymore. But at that point, I knew this is just not the right venue for this, because we hit it so well that, you know, they just weren't ready for it. They weren't ready for that level of, like, extreme enthusiasm. And so it's not even about necessarily the feedback, you know, because you can be doing the right thing at the wrong place. You can be exposing yourself to the wrong group of people. Like, as an artist, you could walk into a room where people are expecting classical art, and you could be doing a lot of, you know, explicit art, but that is beautiful and is sacred, and the people who are there might not understand you, and they might try to degrade the artwork because it's not what they were expecting. That doesn't mean that you're a bad artist. It doesn't mean that you don't have people who will praise you and buy your artwork. It means that you exposed your art to the people who weren't ready for that. As a musician, you could be playing for the wrong audience, but you'll know inside that you don't need to tear somebody else down. that you know that you hit all of the notes, that you played the correct, stuff at the right time. There's a sense of completion that somebody else's comment afterward doesn't make or break it for you. It doesn't make you feel like, okay, yeah, I did a good job, or oh man, I did a bad job, because this person who has their opinion, that has their expression, who was expecting these things, gave me a yes or a no. You'll know inside. And you will have done your best, and you know that you did your best. And then let's say, on top of expressing yourself, on top of doing this thing where you already feel good because you're like, wow, I got that out of me. And even in sports, it's like that. I made that play. I sang that song. I wrote that poem. I finished this piece of art. I've gotten that expression of self, of graceful, movement out of me. And I feel good. Oh man, I got first place. Oh man, I won that award. Oh man, you know what I mean? I'm really connecting with other people, and they all seem to like it. So I'm, in first place in this way. That's extra. That's not what you're doing it for. If you're doing what your soul wants you to do. And I think that a lot of the world is missing that. It's missing that what your activity is should complete you, and everything else should be extra. You don't see a person go into a garden and plant tomatoes to make the most tomatoes in the town. They just want delicious tomatoes to eat. And when they pick a tomato, they're excited that the tomato plant bloomed, that they fruited. You grab your little fruit there, because tomatoes are fruit, and you eat it. And it's good. Or it's not good. And if it's not good, you're like, what did I do wrong this year? Did I not water you right? Did I not provide the correct sunlight or shade? Was my soil depleted? And then you fix it. And then you're happy with yourself because you're going to eat a good tomato. Now, if you were to win best tomato, best tasting tomatoes, most tomatoes, that would be on top of the fact that you got to eat really good tomatoes. It's extra. But the act of making the tomatoes and having tomatoes to eat, and the sense of completion of knowing you did a good job, was already there. The fact that other people liked it, the fact that you got to excel beyond other people, is extra. And so much of the world is trying to make the extra be the content. Like when you think about a cake with icing, sprinkles, and candles. The cake is the cake is the cake. You can't have icing on a plate and think this is delicious. I mean, you can, but you certainly didn't eat a cake with icing. You just ate icing. And so many people who are trying to say that they are successful, that they've made it, that they are the number one at this or that, are all icing. They're trying to tell you that if you don't have icing, you didn't do it. And that's not true. Because many of them don't have any cake. They're not content. They're not content in the fact that they completed this thing, that they let this thing out, that they experienced this thing, that they accomplished this thing. They want icing, they want sprinkles, they want candles, but they don't understand cake. Because they couldn't be happy with having cake without the icing. And then once they have icing, they need sprinkles. And then once they have sprinkles, they gotta have candles. And they don't even care about what the cake is made of, And that leads to everybody who's involved in them or following them or, whatever, being really discontent. Because contentment is found in the cake. It's the thrill and the excitement and the extra where the frosting and the sprinkles and the candles are. And that's just something that's been like being brought to my attention over and over and over again, is that if somebody's got to tear you down to do what they're doing, they're missing their cake. If somebody needs to try to tell you that you are a bad person just in general, and they can't separate you from a behavior, like this behavior is harmful, or instead you are bad, or, if you, let's, for an easy analogy, if you get your elbow up, you're going to hit that ball better, versus you're a bad batter. I don't want you in the lineup. That's not what it is. You're missing some fundamentals of your cake. And when you get the cake right, you're going to be a good batter. Maybe not the best batter, but you're going to be able to hit the ball. You're going to be able to be consistently good. You're going to be cake. And then when you can face that really amazing pitcher who's striking everybody else out and take those fundamentals and hit that ball, you've got some icing. You hit that ball in the bottom of the ninth and you get that home run you needed, well, you've got sprinkles and candles. But the fact that you can consistently have a good batting average, that's cake. You enjoy hitting the ball, that's cake. And you can, cake. Being able to do it better than other people, that's icing. That's sprinkles. Winning first place because you are a good batter, that's candles. And I think that we're teaching people and we're showing people and we're expressing this as our self-expression so often that we've lost the fundamentals of, is this what you needed to carry out? And if it is, you don't need to gossip about people. You don't need to trash talk. You don't need to try to tear other people down. You don't need to, scream at other people. Like, nobody is guiltless in this. We are all healing and learning. And, some people grow out of this as children. Some people are still doing this because they've never found that piece of contentment where the cake is. Either they've never been allowed to by other people, or they've never really wanted to or understood it. But it's time to get back to understanding the cake of life. Of being interested in putting the fundamentals together of something you're supposed to be doing. A good dressmaker doesn't make a dress because they want to be known as a good dressmaker. A good dressmaker makes a good dress because they want to dress the person that they're dressing and make them look beautiful, no matter their body shape, Like, yes, I can dress that, and I will, and I did, and you look good. I made a good dress. Hey, cake. Oh man, people thought you were the best dressed. Icing. Man, people still think it, like 10 years later. Sprinkles and candles. But the initial goal was to just take that body and put that body in fabric that made it look good. Because you're a really good tailor. Because you are really good at sewing. Because you work with a good team of tailors and people who can sew. I don't know. But it's certainly not so that you make it on the cover of a magazine. You made it on the cover of the magazine because you're good. And that's, people are just doing it all backwards. And it's just time to kind of address in ourselves, I think, what really brings you happiness? What can you do where you say, I just took this situation, one situation at a time, and I liked what I did, and I didn't need to profess it to anybody, and I feel good about what I accomplished, and what I accomplished, not only does it feel good, but it looks good, I think I can attribute a lot of this to learning how to golf. It's a very solitary sport. In high school, you're on a team, and you walk, and get to ride a cart. And you learn a lot about yourself carrying your own golf clubs for 18 holes. You really do. You really don't know how anybody else is going to shoot. You're paired up with one other person from your team, and two people from another team. And your goal is to just be able to hit the ball better than you did the last time and avoid the hazards. Hit fairways and greens in regulation and be under 2 putts per hole. And if you can do that, you're going to shoot fairly well. And your goal is to just play your best, You're not out there trying to overtly beat someone else. Because if you are, you're going to play very, very poorly that day. But if you're out there to hit every ball in each situation the best you can, oh man, I hit really bad off the tee. If you go, oh man, I hit really bad off the tee, not, okay, this is where my ball's lying now. How do I recover? How do I hit this ball well? If you don't do that, you're never going to play well. And you are going to have to try to get inside someone else's head and make them play bad. You are going to have to make cheap shot comments because you feel insecure inside, because you're not walking up to every single situation saying, this is the situation, now I'm going to do it well. My ball's in the sand. Oh man, I love it when I'm in the sand because I love taking this type of sand shot. Oh, I didn't hit that green? Well, watch me chip it in because I'm really good at that too. It's not about anything other than feeling really confident that even in a sticky situation, you've got the skills to do that and that you enjoy doing that. Then you can tell that person, hey, that person is a good golfer. You happen to outplay other people, icing. But just playing golf well and liking hitting the ball and being able to control the ball, no matter if you're in the rough or you're in the middle of the fairway, whether there's water or sand or nothing, Did you enjoy hitting the ball? Cake. You scored well? Double your cake. You beat somebody else? Icing. You played well enough to compete in a tournament and you placed well or won? Sprinkles. You happen to be able to become a professional golfer and win consistently? Well, now you've got candles. But it all starts with being okay with cake. And so many people are just not okay with cake. They don't have any cake. I don't know. But I think it's something that we all need to kind of address. What makes you feel like you're eating cake? What makes you feel confident? What are you doing in your life that makes you happy without the acknowledgement or praise or recognition of anybody else? I used to think I wanted Grammys. I'd walk down the street and be like, yeah, I'm gonna have those. I don't care anymore. That is not what would ever bring me joy. It'd be nice, sure. Win an award, cool, whatever. But every single day getting to do something that I know I completed to the best of my ability, that, I worked with myself or a group of people to make somebody feel good inside, I don't care what I do, that's what I want to do. So if today, for me, if it was today that I wrote a song and tomorrow that I painted a picture and then the next day I did some photography and then the next day I designed some stuff and then I built some furniture and then I went back to writing a song and then I helped somebody spiritually and then I gave someone good advice and all of those things happened to improve my life and someone else's, that's great. That's an award for me right there. That's it. That's all I need, personally. But everybody's got that thing. Or those things. It just depends on how many interests and hobbies you have, really. But making someone else's life better, improving the environment, improving the world, improving yourself, that's the cake. Everything else is just icing, sprinkles, and candles.